Well, g'day everyone. Today I wanted to sort of continue on the saga of the Sony firmware upgrades for their highest end models that are out there. There's just been a release today of an FX3 and FX30 get the same updates actually. And as I discussed in my previous update, I'm very disappointed in Sony's marketing and I don't understand what they're doing here. I know some of you will agree, say you should, when you buy the camera, that should be it. I don't agree with that. So if you do not believe the way I feel, or you sort of think I'm wrong, it might be best if you don't watch, because you're not going to be happy with what I'm going to say. But today, Sony have just announced a new firmware update for the FX3 and the FX30. They get anamorphic de-squeeze, DCI 4K and 24 frames per second. Now, I'm so happy for the people that have those cameras. Don't get me wrong, I really am. But the FX3 was released just after the Sony camera, the a7S III really was released, not long after. And it's got all of these extra features, and it really annoys me. And I also feel very sorry for the A1 users as well that have really got no major updates as well. It's very frustrating. So the Sony FX3 and the FX30 get anamorphic de-squeeze, DCI 4K at 24 frames per second and more. Now, look, I have to understand that, yes, a lot of these things, if you're talking about these things here, the anamorphic de-squeeze, etc., you know, that they are filmic. But the a7S III was designed as a filmic camera, as a film camera more than a still sensor, because it's a 12 megapixel sensor. I love the photographic side of the a7S III, but it is definitely used more as a video camera with most of the people that have bought them. So, you know, it's frustrating where you're getting these things, you know, in a camera, say the FX30, that is way cheaper than what the a7S III is, and it's just been completely ignored. So let's keep going down. So it says it's just announced a significant new firmware update for the FX3 line and the FX30 camera systems. You're going to get DCI 4K, and I'll talk a little bit about these in a minute, because it is a big advantage using DCI 4K, and true 24 frames per second, and adds anamorphic lens de-squeeze and breathing compensation. So they've added the breathing compensation onto those cameras as well. Now, to look at the firmware itself, it says the new firmware updates, it's version 3. And it says that it brings some highly requested features that the company says will enhance, you know, obviously the storytelling, etc. It also includes the ability to shoot DCI 4K in true 24p. Now, that's really interesting, because that update means that you can sort of, it's more of a square type format, and then you can move it around inside the frame. So it gives you much more flexibility to sort of crop and position where you want your image to be. So it's very handy to do that. You can see it shoots at 4096 by 2160. The other thing too down here, it's just saying that you've got true 24p on both of those cameras as well, and you've got the focus breathing compensation as well. I'm just trying to see if it says anything. It just says here that it's making it closer to the Venice, etc., and things like that. Now, I can understand what they're saying here, that the FX3 line was more of a FX type camera. In other words, it's more like the full true cinematic type cameras that are out there. But having said that, like I said, the a7S III was also a video-centric camera as well. The A1 is as well. I mean, it's the only camera at this stage that can shoot 8K, and yet it's not getting any of these features that are available there that they've just released, like the focus breathing. Now, the interesting thing is, because they've released those features for the FX3, it proves that they could do it with the Sony a7S III, because it's exactly it's the same camera, apart from there's no EVF. And it's a different body type shape. Now, some people were talking about overheating. I can tell you that I've used the a7S III in our Australian summer, which gets very hot. I've been shooting weddings in close to 40 degrees Celsius, which is, you know, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is never overheated. So if the a7S III has not got a problem with overheating, the A1 I can't talk about because I haven't got one, but I still feel for those people that have that camera. I think Sony have done a really bad thing here. Now, even if they brought the firmware out, yes, I'm going to be happy if they bring a firmware out. But we should have had that firmware update for the A7S III and the A1 before the FX3 and the FX30, as these cameras have come out after that. It just seems to me that they are totally going to ignore all of the people that paid for the highest end models, like the A7S III and the A1 and even the A7 IV. I think it's the A7R4, etc. I think it's disgusting, and I'm really upset with Sony, and I think it's really, really bad what they've done here. In fact, like I said in the other one, I'll never buy another high-end Sony camera again. If they don't address this, the next camera that I get, I'm not going to dump Sony because I've got so much stuff in there, but the next camera I get may not be a Sony because I'm so annoyed about how they're treating people. What they need to do is to look at something like companies like Blackmagic Design, which will look after a gear that you've bought from ages ago, and they'll still be adding features. Fuji, Nikon now has sort of woken up to this, and they're adding good features. Canon just got an update the other day, which is some nice features as well. But you know, I mean, it's just not on. I'd love to know your opinion. And again, I know some people are going to be negative against this, but I think we've got to also think about the people that paid the top dollar for those other two cameras. Apart from that, guys, I'll see you all on Saturday's show. Bye for now.